Hey everyone, and welcome to F4 Obsessed, a deep dive, a weekly show where we discuss F4 Thailand from a symbolic and meta perspective. I'm Ty, your host, and my co-host is Marie Claire, who I call MC. Say hi,
Hello.
MC. Hello.
Hello. Welcome back, everyone, and to those that are new. I hope you enjoy.
Yeah, we are Hana Yori Dango fans, if you do not know already, and we truly adore this story. This week's episode was quite a ride, but we have some fun stuff to cover before we dive into it.
Absolutely.
First off, we're going to do our comments review. We had a lot of comments this time around. There's a lot of new people that have kind of found us recently. And we also have a lot of people who speak the language, who speak Thai, who are telling us a lot of really cool things in the comments, correcting some of the stuff that we're pronouncing or just giving us some more background to what's going on in the conversations in the show. So that's really cool. So make sure that you're checking out the comments of our episodes because people are being really helpful. So to go through some of these, Gid said, don't pronounce the letter R too clearly. For example, Gorya, say Goya, the same G and O pronounced in gloss. So thank you very much for that, because clearly we've been pronouncing Goya wrong.
And we'll try. We'll try. When people correct us. Yeah. I have a very non-dexterous tongue. So if I mess it up, I apologize in advance. I am trying.
Yeah, we definitely will try. So we apologize if we don't get it all the time. Next one is from Yorozua Meichan, who was the same person who last episode gave us kind of the clue into the whole condensed milk mystery that we were having with the first episode. And they said about the quid pro quo dialogue that Tum, which that's another one, time or tum, we think it's tum, intended to say yun mu yun mao, which is it's a Thai proverb / idiom, literally meaning I hand in pig, you hand in cat. It's used for the event of exchanging something equally at the spot. Tam, just like most of very rich kids in Thailand, studies in an elite international school since kindergarten, either British or American curriculum. It's natural that he doesn't know much about Thai idioms. So,
Thai? My Thai, not this Thai, but Thai, here's a pig.
Here's
Give me a cat.
Yeah.
I love it. I don't know. It's great.
Yeah, it's definitely an idiom. So thank you so much for that, Mei-chan. And Mara Lacaniana, we've seen this commenter before as well. They say, this is my first time being introduced to the story. And the point that really sold me was how the moment the female lead gets on top of him, meaning the male lead, and deprives him of his power. He's really nothing. He gets ridiculed in front of other people and her. Like when she kisses him, all of a sudden, he's just this guy who didn't even kiss someone before. And he kind of likes the power she has over him, but doesn't really know how to process it. So he just screams and runs. It's super interesting to see this high status character being torn away of his power and having a crisis just because this little girl says no to him over and over again. Can't wait to see how this keeps playing. And this is from somebody who hasn't seen the story before. So I thought that was really exciting. Yeah.
which is exactly how you're supposed to feel watching or reading or experiencing Hana Yori Dango for the first time. So thank you so much.
Yes. Talking about the power dynamics is part of the fun of the story. So I thought that was cool. So BB Light said, I saw this tidbit somewhere. One of the anonymous accounts commenting in support of Goya is named Arim, which is Mira written backwards. Perhaps Mira was supporting Goya in secretly on social media as well.
Oh, love it.
That was cool. Ramla Omar says, I love how Tum just brushes past those flight attendants. It really shows that he doesn't care about the opposite sex, which makes it that much sweeter when he falls in love with Goya.
I'm obsessed with this comment. Yeah. I replied back to it. This is one of my favorite things about the male lead in Hana Yori Dango. He's not into men. He's not into women. He's only into her.
Yeah. He's only into her.
yeah, like to me, that's like, I used to, when we were watching the 2018 version, I called Dao Mingxi Shansai sexual, because like he's really just only into her. That is his sexuality, which is very hot for some reason.
Yeah, it is. It's a female fantasy, it's a feminine fantasy, it's a romance fantasy, for someone to not care about anybody, just this one person. It's really cool. Dr. Quinzel says, fun fact, the episodes on YouTube are actually blocked in the Philippines, and we only get to watch it on live TV or on this, on like I guess
the channel's streaming platform,
right? This channel platform, and it's only on Filipino dub. They said that they saw a clip that's subbed in English where Gorya was screaming on the rooftop and said something like, "It's my business, it's the modern age." While the Filipino dub, she said something like, "It's my body, it's none of your business," which I low-key like better.
And there was a few other comments, and I can't find them for some reason now, but about how when Kevin calls Kanging a chipmunk.
Right.
Chipmunk. It's translated as chipmunk, but apparently the actual translation is something closer to like short girl.
Yeah.
So there's going to be some translation issues. And if we refer to something that's pretty obvious, like it's just because of the translation. So we apologize to the native speakers.
Yeah, definitely.
We're going to get stuff wrong because we're reliant on the company-led translations.
Yes. Yeah, absolutely. And then the last one I have flagged here is from Pavani, who said that the napkin Ren gives to Gorya when she gets food on her, it says Ren in Thai, and I think it's like he doesn't even realize it, but he's given himself to her without even consciously registering, which is of course foreshadowing for the whole arc.
I love this comment. It's so much more eloquent than I could have said it. That's great.
It's perfect. And those who are familiar with the story know that even though Ren left in this episode, we know he's coming back, and Gorya still has the handkerchief, so with his name on it. And that was another good thing again to point out for us, because I didn't know that was his name on the handkerchief. I could assume that, but that was really cool that it was his name. So okay, so again, thank you for the comments, and please, let us know if we missed anything that you think is really important when we do our deep dive. So I'm doing a lore section every week, if you haven't seen already, with what we did last week about the hair choice and all of that. This week we're going to cover the red card, because we're not going to see the red card anymore. Like we're done with the red card. Yeah, it's gone. So just wanted to
in the manga, it is actually given out again, but most versions of adaptation never give it out again. Yeah. So I think that's really, really important.
Yeah.
We're pretty much done with it.
Exactly. So I just wanted to compare all the different iterations of it. I mean, obviously the very first one in the manga, it's just called the red card, and it is just a red card. So that is
it translates more correctly to be like red notice or declaration.
Yeah.
So it's like a declaration of war. Like attack, right? And there's a lot of like, the school is kind of an army that is at the whim of the leaders of the school.
Yes.
Feel.
And again, that comes across in like other versions, or some versions better than others, I think. Sometimes it just seems so odd, like, and we'll get to the 2018 version, how they flip it on its head. But so in the 2005 version, it is more of a declaration. It's more of a notice saying from F4. So that's really interesting one. And then the 2001 version, which was not the first live action, but I'd say it's the first live action that matters. I'm always skipping over the Japanese movie, because it's so it just doesn't portray the story, I think, in a cohesive way. Like it's a movie, so that's a problem. But it's kind of all over the place. So I kind of skip over that one. That card doesn't look anything like the red card. It doesn't look anything like the other one. So just trust me. In the 2001 version, it says "You'll be dead" with F4 written in the middle. I love this one because it's not just a pass for the other kids to bully. It's saying like,
you're done.
Yeah, you're done. You're done for. Which is great. And that also fits the personality of our male lead in that one because he's a lot more rough. He's big. He's like a big guy. So that's
and also
fun.
Seems kind of punk like or like extreme compared to the other versions where he's goofy? Sort of like a rich goofy guy.
Yeah, yeah, definitely. And then and that goes along with the 2009 version, which is the Korean version. Kind of same thing. Like he's a bigger guy. Like he's not like lanky. He's not skinny. And
it's funny because there's different interpretations of the height of the character too.
Yeah. Well, they're all supposed to be tall, right?
They're all tall, but compared to the rest of the F4.
Yeah.
Yeah,
that's true. Yeah, so that one has a skull and bones on it. It's supposed to be super scary, and it goes along with like the melodramaticness of the whole Korean version. And then we have the 2018 version, which is no longer a red card. It is a Joker card, and it's clear. Yes. It's really cool, actually. I always like that.
Yeah, and they're like solid. Like after we watched this version, I wanted one.
Yeah, because she like throws it at him.
Yeah.
It's really fun, the Joker card and the whole twist on it's not bullying. We're just challenging you to a game of bridge.
And then you have to do what we want.
Yeah. If you lose, yeah, that's the bullying aspect. So, and now we're back with the 2021 version, which is 4 different Fs on the card.
And might I say, is the sexiest of them.
It is. It's
I have to say, like, what? Oh, I think I talked about this in the first episode. I was like, this is again like American Psycho's version of the F4 card, like the red card.
It is. It's incredibly well stylized. They put a lot of thought into this. It's funny because it makes me think of the fact that the 2005 version, which they're taking the most from, is so different, and it's using such a generic font. Like I don't know why we haven't seen something a little more creative. Like the 2001 version I'd say is pretty creative, 2018 is pretty creative, but 2021 retains a lot of the original meaning of what the red card is supposed to be, and but just giving it a stylistic touch, which I really like. So
like they spent money to bully people. Like they went to a printer and they like looked at samples.
They had to emboss it with like red foil.
Like, and you need to be able to feel the destruction they're about to feel. Yeah. Like because like if you ran your hand over that, like you could feel it. Like yeah,
it's like embossed or debossed or whatever you call it. Yeah. So it's very
I was really hoping it was like a solid, like, you know, really thick piece of like paper, like similar to the Joker card. I was really hoping it was not just like a flimsy piece of paper, but like really solid. Like she could actually like, I know she grabbed it and you could see it crumple, but like I was really hoping it was like even thicker than that. Like
I think they wanted to retain the ability to like crumple it, because there is a scene with Tom also crumpling the red card, so it's probably intentional in that way. But they thought it through, but it is cool having the other version as well.
And now I imagine F4 going to a printer and being like looking at samples and like deciding
which font is there, like which F is their
unique F.
That's really funny. The implications of this are just hysterical. I mean, I guess the skull makes way more sense for like a high schooler bully, but that's hilarious. Okay.
Maybe they had an assistant do it.
Yeah. You know, they have people for that. Okay, so we had a lot of comments. I think we just briefly mentioned in the last episode about the animal sounds.
Yeah.
And there were some comments of people maybe not entirely familiar with this. In Asian dramas, this is pretty common thing. You see it all throughout, like not just Korean dramas, but you see it in lots of Taiwanese dramas, and Japanese dramas, pretty much all of the ones coming out of Asia. You'll hear animal sound or just like really wacky sound effects, right?
Yes. And this is just a common extreme soundscape that is used especially for comedic Asian dramas, and it's used in Japan, China, Korea, Taiwan.
Mm-hmm.
We see it in Thailand. We've also seen it in the Philippines.
Right.
But also it usually what you'll hear it in combination with is also sort of extreme or heightened score. So as an example, during this scene, we get a lot of like really interesting sound design as well as sort of like the comedic score. But later on, when Tom and his sister are talking, we get like kind of a smooth jazz. And then when he kind of changes his mind and he's going to ask her out, it changes to like an like drums and a Marshall sound. So the music is also doing that. So if you just listen in, you can start to pay attention to these things. But really it is to add in a comedic reaction using animal sounds. And you'll hear sheep or goat bleats a lot. You'll hear bird squawks sometimes in Asian dramas, dog whines like I've been kicked, cat mews for I'm feeling like interested in you, horse neighs like awkward male sounds. You'll also occasionally, if somebody is like taken aback, you'll hear a blinking sound, like blink, 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 blink.
Yes, there was in this scene there was a boiling kettle sound when she was starting to get angry.
Yeah, it's very cartoony.
Yeah,
right, like it comes from this idea of what they call in North America Mickey Mousing, which is that the soundscape uses sound design to help accentuate the character's emotions.
Yeah, it's exaggerating what's happening visually. So I grabbed some of the clips from the bus scene because we had a lot of that in the bus scene for this episode. So I'll just play you a couple of them.
And it's awkward, like you're feeling awkward in that moment.
Exactly. And this next one is not an animal sound. It's just very, very like little, but it makes a big difference for the scene. And then this is my favorite one, which we've seen a lot with Thum. And of course, that's like the dog.
And right after that, there's a horse's neigh.
Yeah, there is. There's another one after that. Yeah. So lots of animal sounds. Yeah. Lots of animal sounds with Thum and his reactions, which is so cute.
Yeah. He's a kicked puppy.
Yeah, he is. He's a kicked puppy. All right. So now for our weekly Which Time This Time quadrant chart. So every week we are putting Thum on the quadrant chart that goes along with something that the director said during the special, which was that there's 4 different types of times. There's angry, sweet, child, and smitten. So last week we kind of said he didn't really move very much. He was still like in the angry child area. This week he definitely took a change. So this week I'm putting Thum. Sweet child.
He's not angry at all.
No, he's not. He has moments, but at the end of this episode, he's in the sweet child area.
He's a little baby.
He's a baby. So now let's get into the episode.
Yeah. The paper plane.
The paper plane. I love this episode so much.
The titles have been so good.
Yeah, they really have been. They always have a lot of meaning. And of course, that this one's no different. This has a lot of meaning. And we don't start out really I think goes for the previous ones as well. We do not start out seeing the title of the episode. We do not see the intro just yet. We're picking up right where we left off, which was after the kiss, the unintentional versus intentional kiss, as is this opening with this drama that we're seeing, which I find hysterical.
I love the use of like a drama to kind of show the meta conversation around what she is experiencing.
Yeah, and she's staying completely quiet. She's got her head down, and her parents are just all about this. This is completely impossible for it to happen in real life. The only way it happens is if it is fate and it is intentional. It's like those are contradicting things, obviously, but it's like, what are the chances of this happening? It only happens in dramas, and it's totally intentional.
I like how the female lead in the drama sort of looks like the female lead from the 2001 version of Meteor Garden with the braids.
Yeah.
I was like, wow, that really looks like her. I wonder if that was intentional or if they just kind of tried to go with somebody who looked innocent. Like I question everything about this show, whether it's intentional, because everything seems so intentional. So
it does.
Yeah.
Yes.
So
she says, I think the lead in the drama they're watching at the very beginning says something like, a devilish man like you will charm me into submission. That's the first line there of that drama. So, and again, we're just, this is similar to like in 2005 version when she's talking with the Dango shop owner, and the owner's like, he's still like your worst enemy, your greatest enemy stole your first kiss. That's like a bad thing. So this is kind of the equivalent of that. But it means something different.
Yeah. And it's such a good way to like put in sharp relief what she is experiencing on the inside and what society in general thought of that kiss.
Yes.
Right. And even Tom himself thinks of that kiss.
Yes.
Right. So it's showing a excellent juxtaposition.
Yes. What are each of them thinking about it? She's ashamed. She's like, it was not intentional. And then we show Tom and the other F4, except for Ren, and he is still thinking about the kiss. And I love the part where he wipes his lip because it's a yogurt product placement scene, but they do it so well. And then the other guys are kind of teasing him, like, it was your first kiss. He says, no, it wasn't. They're like, yes, it was.
You're still thinking about it.
You've lost all your cool. And then he says that she's a hypocrite. He's like, I know her now. I understand her now. She's a hypocrite, and she's right in the palm of my hand.
No, she's not.
And there's something I think it's important to call out here, because from here on out, Tom will have flashes of being changed, of being new, of being kind of like reborn again. And what started that was the kiss. And this is like fairy tale trope. Tom is basically, Sleeping Beauty, and Gorya is the one who has woken him from this sort of curse, or at least has woken him up to help him to start to change on his own. And that's really important, because before now he's been a complete monster and he's been asleep to that. So he's changing.
And I also think like this is to the fairy tale type stuff that we've been talking about before, but like Tom is, and I'm going to get into this from a sort of a different angle later on, but it's really important to recognize the mood of Tom sets the mood of the school and sort of like the society that they all exist in. So he's fighting with Ren and he's in love. Everybody's like, yay, you're in love. Could you not be fighting with Ren? Because everybody gets worried when he's having some sort of dispute, if it's between him and Gorya, or if it's between him and Ren. People are worried because that affects sort of the calm of everything else in the society that they exist in, the school and the people surrounding it.
Yeah,
Tom is this, I'm going to use the word leader and I'll come back to it, but leader, and his sort of mood and experience sets the mood and experience for everybody else.
Yes. Until, yeah. And Goya is kind of this actor for changing that.
She's the one who balances him out.
Mm-hmm.
That's the key, is like later on, she's the
Yeah.
one who balances him out. And so his mood and everything still affects everybody, but it's only in positive ways.
Yeah, exactly. Okay. So then we have a scene going to, because what they do here, which is brilliant storytelling, is they use a social media as like social media chatter as a transition to get the conflict that's happening with Tom to get back to Ren and Mira, who are together at Mira's house. And
that's just straight in the script to say, I'm thinking about Ren, and then we go to Ren, and Ren is thinking about X, and then we go to X. Like it's very solid writing.
Yeah, it's very solid. It is very just satisfying, the way that they set things up. So then we get kind of, Mira, we know, if we're familiar with the story, we know what she's planning on, and we know that she's going to be leaving. But it was absolutely awesome to show this as the opening, because Ren is drawing her, and this drawing is going to be the paper plane. So this is all just being set up for the ending. So we see Mira's face and then the paper plane, not understanding exactly what that means, but we will know that by the end of the episode. So it's really beautiful how they set all that up.
And they do this thing where whatever happens to be in your hand, like he's got his pen and the picture of her, so it's like this quote unquote image in his mind of who she is in his hand. And so does Goya. She's got this handkerchief with his name on it, this perfect pristine. She has ironed it, she's washed it, she's treating it with love and touching it. It's like this false image is in their hands. It's beautiful.
Yeah, that's a good comparison. And so she's going to try to use this handkerchief to talk to him. That's her excuse, to go see him and talk to him maybe about the kiss. But she can't find him. So she runs into MJ and Kevin, which is adorable. Like, MJ is like my favorite person ever.
Great.
He's so great.
I feel like I knew somebody like him in high school. Like,
yes.
That's like there was always that guy who's just kind of nice and like,
but a bad boy,
but like you also like kind of like, he's always just kind of there and helpful. Like, I don't know. I feel like he's really, the actor is really just filling out this character so well.
Yes. Yeah. They're giving him, and the director said he liked, he likes Nani so much. So he really wanted to use him in certain ways. And he really is. Like, MJ has such a fun character. So this was a cute scene. She says, they tease her, like, be careful what you see when you go over there, kind of thing. And she's like, no, I just want to return something to them. And they're like, oh, really?
And they're doing something really subtle as well, which is that they're always showing MJ and Kevin with women.
Yes.
Always. Wherever they are, they always have women, and it's different women wherever they go, because they have to show, like, subtly through these intro episodes how much of a change Kevin is going to go through.
Yeah, I hope MJ as well. I wonder how they're going to show that kind of later with both of them, because we know Kevin has like a pretty fleshed out story, but MJ doesn't. So he's kind of a clean slate to work with.
I don't know how much we're going to get, because there's nothing written in the manga. He kind of just continues to be who he is, and it's kind of up to the story adapters to change him or give him a subplot involving coconuts, like in the 2018 version.
Oh God, yeah. Let's hope it doesn't take that kind of route. But I mean, it's not, I like him though, so maybe, I don't know, I could watch him do pretty much any plot and probably enjoy it. So I don't know. We'll leave that up to what happens next. So yeah, the next scene, Goya goes to Mira's to find Ren and sees the conflict unfold. And just a note, like this episode, just like the last episode, is still like point for point the exact same thing that happens in the Japanese version, or at least it hits the story plot points in the same way that the Japanese version does. It's using very different symbols, and it's using different, it's teasing out character motivations a little bit differently, which I really, really like, because it seems more coherent in this episode. But
I would say it understands its emotional beats better.
Yes.
And focuses in on those, and gives the space to the story to tell those. Whereas the Japanese version at some points, and it gets worse with as you go, it gets confused and a little messy. Whereas it knows exactly what it's trying to say in this.
Yeah, they're explicitly saying things.
Yes, explicitly. Yes.
Yeah, explicitly. Like starting with this scene, they have this conversation of, you know, Mira says, "I'm leaving," and he is not happy about it. But then he says, which I don't think has been explicitly said in other versions, the world you're about to leave behind has me in it. And it's very much built up to be like, you're leaving me, you know. I'm not upset that you're leaving. It's that you're basically saying that we're done, and any future that we had is over. So that was just very heartbreaking, I think, because the actor here, he acts the heck out of the scene. And all the other ones in this episode.
Yeah, they're all exceptional. I think it's so solid to introduce this concept of abandonment in this story, and like the leaving me, which is already brought up twice in this episode.
Yeah.
So I think they're going to come back to it as a thing that is brought up throughout the show.
Yes, it's definitely setting up things for the future plot points and the future arcs that we still have to go through. Okay. So then, you wanted to talk about this aspect.
I am obsessed with how this show uses media and social media. So I'm going to come back to this. We've already mentioned it a couple of times, like just using it to cut between things to show how, and I keep on using society, so I'll call it society around the school in F4 reacts to things. And in the manga, this is like an entire book, like where Mira announces that she's leaving and the effects on Ren and like everything. And she just like, she's like in front of like the celebs, which is like an entertainment show, explaining that she's going to go to France and become a human rights lawyer. Isn't she still in high school? I have questions. It's fine. But this is such efficient storytelling because we see it on a phone in a scene, and it's show, don't tell. And we can have the characters who are in the moment. It takes like 30 seconds to show that clip. And then we get the reactions right away with the flower shop owner, like, why don't you go and get him? And, you know, that whole, and it's talking about the character's internal thoughts, which are never explicitly said as much as in this show through the dialogue and conversation of the people around her.
Yeah.
In the other versions, we don't get how the character feels. We know how Gorya feels because of how they're constructing the plot. This is brilliant storytelling. It is a masterclass.
Yeah, it's very well done. With the dialogue is kind of throwing me for a loop because I'll watch it and I'll be like, wait, what? Like that's not in any of the other versions. So that's cool. I love this part where the flower shop owner tosses her the pink rose, because I mean, we already know like there's a lot of flower symbolism going on because F4, flower 4, they have 4 different flowers that which we talked about in the last episode with the opening, and what those flowers mean are all very different from each other. So it's pretty generic here. This, I mean, obviously pink is typically about love. It symbolizes romantic love and also like the innocence of love. So but also a rose associated with our male lead, with Tom, and not Ren. Ren is not a rose. Ren is the white cutter flower. So it's just interesting that he tossed her a pink rose. Might not mean anything, but we like reading too much into things is just what we like to do. So thought I would point that out.
I also like how, and I've pointed this out in the other episodes as well, how Gorya uses checking Twitter and Instagram of Ren to show how much she is thinking about him.
Pining. She's like pining for him.
Yeah. It's the equivalent of being able to stare at somebody across the room.
Yeah.
And like, again, using the technology tools of today to tell this story is so smart. And I love these creators for that.
I love the line, the get in line, like all girls get in line, that shows up on the social media post. Cause I'm like, I see that, all the time with, K-pop idols, like, oh, you like Jimin, get in line, you see that all the time with idols. So it was just really cute. And it shows how much the F4 are so popular, and it's in a way that is beyond just like the school. Like they actually are like celebrities. Yeah. So, and then of course we have the bus scene, which is so good. And there's so much going on here. Oh
my gosh.
So this whole thing breaks out into a big fight. And I mean, very typical of our couple here, very similar to the previous fight they got into at Tom's house. So, but then something very specific happens where he calls her out saying, I give you luxury. So I give you luxuries. Yes.
And you turn them down. And now I give you simple things and you turn them down.
What's it going to be?
And you won't take them. What's it going to be? Like, yeah. I'm trying to come to your level. And this is again, like one of the major sort of themes of Hana Yori Dango, which is that they try to live in each other's worlds for a while throughout the course of the story. He's trying to show like, don't you see, I'm trying, like I'm doing things my way still, but trying to come to your level.
Yes.
But he has bought the whole bus out.
Yes.
And this, she brings up, and it's through the yelling. So I have to pause it to like catch it. And I kind of love how much she yells. I don't know if you're in that, but I love that she's so expressive and so like you're ridiculous and you're so selfish. What about all of those other people? Because again, how Tom acts affects everybody.
Yeah. Good point.
He affects everybody. Anything he chooses to do because of the power that he has, because of his place in society and in the school, affects everybody else. So she's calling him out and saying, your selfishness has delayed tons of people getting to work or getting to school or not being able to catch the bus. Don't you understand? Because he was only thinking about her wants as a reflection of his wants.
Yes.
Not she wants him to think about everybody else as well. And to also care about her.
Right. Somebody in the comments on the last episode said something about giving things is like Tom's love language.
Yes.
And he doesn't know any better right now. And the fact that like Gorya has already called that out, like in the previous episode, she has seen that that's his love language because she called him out on trying to give her things when he should have just apologized.
Yes. And her love language is acts of service.
Yeah. So this is again just kind of pushing us forward with their relationship. She understands what he's doing and why he's doing it, but she's like, okay, this is too far. And she's kind of teaching him while like screaming at him and being mad at him.
Yeah. And trying to explain, like, don't you understand? This is not the way. And she's actually communicating as much as she's also yelling at him, which is, I mean, that's a big step forward for this couple. Can we talk about his shirt?
Oh yeah. So I did want to mention, since we're going to talk about kind of these costume choices, the interesting thing to me about like Gorya is that her colors are green and tan, regardless of the fact that her uniform is green and tan. Like she's wearing those colors like
she is grass
regularly. Yeah, she is grass. So the fact that they're pairing her with his, like what he's doing here is so interesting to me. So yeah, tell us about the banana and leopard print.
Okay, so when we think about his character and the director's words about, is he angry child, sweet, smitten. Right? Mm-hmm. This is literally showing him being a child, angry, an angry child, right? Because he's a leopard and a banana, like, which is associated with being goofy and silly.
Yeah. Right? I feel like I feel like they're gonna do this a few more times in terms of the like, half shirt thing.
I feel like they had to make this shirt. Like they like, you know what I'm saying? Like they took 2 shirts and they cut them apart and then they made a shirt. Like, or they like specifically made this shirt for this moment to show like like this was a very childish thing that you did, Tom, to say like you don't understand because you're not fully grown up, you're not fully ready for this, but you're trying. But you're not quite there yet. And it's just so stark to see the bananas and the leopard. Like I love it.
It is funny. I have seen these shirts as of late. It's like a trend right now. Like they're doing this half shirt thing for guys, especially like the short sleeve button down. Yeah. 2 different things. So I would not be surprised if we see this again because he's supposed to have money and he's supposed to be on trend to an extent. I mean, it's funny. We saw his entire outfit and his pants are a little like baggy, which I thought was really weird. So I don't know what they were doing with the pairing of this shirt with like baggy-ish pants. It just really threw me.
If he thought this was blending in. Like he's specifically dressing to blend in with her.
That's a good point because in all the other scenes, he has like a jacket on typically.
And tight pants.
Mm-hmm.
And she always wears baggy pants.
Yeah.
When she has a choice to wear pants.
She has like wide leg pants. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
That look like she's about to go digging in a garden. She looks like a gardener always.
She really does.
Funny.
Yeah. No, I like that. I like both interpretations. I think it could be interesting going forward. So we'll keep an eye out for the costumes.
He's just trying to be so cool when he slides up to her. I love that. And he's like, he actually puts his arm over top of her arm too. Like,
yes.
Yeah. So yeah. I don't know.
He's like invading her space. And by the way, this particular moment where he slides in, they show this later from his perspective. And I've gift that for that scene that happens later. But that is really important because from her perspective, she's seeing this like annoying guy who's following her, who's doing things like she didn't ask for. But then we're going to get his perspective later. And it's really, really precious.
It's so satisfying in romance when you get both people's perspectives.
Yes. Very satisfying.
I don't know what it is about it. Is it because we ourselves like to view ourselves through our lover's eyes? Maybe.
Yeah.
And
I know that lots of people, like lots of romance authors are producing. I mean, you probably can think of which one I'm thinking of off the top of your head, but a lot of romance authors for popular works are producing an entire chapter or an entire like another book of.
Oh, are you talking about Midnight Sun?
Actually, I know that one, but I was not thinking about that one. But yeah.
Like Twilight, Stephanie Meyers took the first book of Twilight and did it entirely from Edward's perspective.
Right. And we've seen it also with Ali Hazelwood's The Love Hypothesis. She did a chapter, I think, in her male character's perspective, and it shut the site down because so many people were logging on to read it.
Yeah,
it completely shut the site down. It is satisfying. There's something about it that, because you want to know that he wants her.
Yeah,
because that's not always explicit, and then that's purposeful. It's not, you don't want it to be completely explicit because there's some
those glimpses into their mind, because like the other sex or the other partner in the romance, like they're a mystery until they are explicit, which is the advice that we get later on from the sister, which is be explicit.
Yeah. Don't beat around the bush. Yeah.
Yeah.
I like that. So yeah, the sister shows up. Tia, I think is her name.
Yeah, Tia, and she kicks him.
She kicks him right where Gorya kicked him, which is wonderful. And that's similar to all the other versions. I mean, that's how she's always introduced. And it also adds that idea in our heads that he respects Gorya because that's the way that his sister has treated him.
Yes.
So he sees kind of that strength in her. And I think it's called out in other versions too, like, you like her because she's so similar to your sister.
Yes.
Yeah, people have explicitly said that. I always like that. I mean, I think it's cute. And I think that that initial respect is really important. We talked about like the loyalty thing, how he respects Gorya because of her loyalty to her friend, but he also likes her and is intrigued by her because she has the strength that he is familiar with that's in his sister. So
yeah, and to tie back to that, he associates that with his family strength. So he views her as part of him already.
Yeah, like she is like, yeah, like
she is already family because she treats me this way. Yeah, which is a little weird. But
I mean, it's important for like the dynamic of what they have to go through and how they grow together and all of that. Yeah. So the sister says something to Gorya, and she says, I've never seen my brother chasing after a girl before. Hang in there. Like, just very explicit, you're special. Like, she even said, I think the first thing she says is like, or one of the first things is, so you must be Gorya. Like, she knows who she is. She's heard about her probably through Tom, and she's
or
like,
social media post, right?
That's true. Yeah. Forget about that. But yeah, so she's telling her like, I like you, he likes you, maybe just like hang in there a little bit longer, not explicitly saying like he's changing. Like, she knows that he has to grow up, and it's all very,
I do like the moment when like she confronts him verbally. So Tia confronts Tom verbally, and says, "This cute girl is shivering in fear." And like Gorya is like, "No, I'm not." Yeah, like I was fine, but thank you. I just love that moment because it's like she's kind of showing to Tom how this looks in everybody else's eyes.
Yes,
not just Gorya, who is tough like her, but this is like how this actually looks to everybody else. And in some ways, this kind of replaces a scene that is removed from all but the Meteor Garden versions, which is sort of the attack on the staircase or roof. Yeah, which is good, like because they need to kind of speed it along, and it's
controversial.
It's a very controversial thing that happens between the main lead and the main female lead. And I think this is a good way to say, like, he's kind of attacking her, but it's just because he wants her attention, and it's very childish. I think it's a better way because it's too far of a swing back to get him where he needs to be, I think.
Yeah, if they, again, teasing it out longer, like Meteor Garden has more episodes, longer, it covers a lot more of it. It covers more of his growth. But if we're gonna have shorter, not as long of a show in general, that this is the most efficient way to get this across. And like you said, it's showing that power imbalance that we know is there from a class perspective and from like a gendered perspective. Like, this is happening. He doesn't see it that way, but all the people watching are seeing it that way. Like, not just like people, like you said, like in the world, but also us as the audience watching this fictional story. So that's important to get that message across.
And the controversial jealous attack on the roof does not land well culturally anywhere.
No.
So I'm okay with them removing it for simplicity. The key is, and it'll happen later, I'll point it out. There's actually a key important character moment for him. But it doesn't need to be as explicit as it is in the manga or in Meteor Garden. We don't have a GIF for it, but it is when Gorya arrives at school, we get a quick flash to Hana, her friend that she has been saving and protecting, getting jealous of her. Like, I didn't realize you were this close with the F4. And both Ty and I have been talking about how this is probably laying the groundwork for the revenge plot that eventually happens.
The revenge plot or the like jealousy plot, it just like depends, because there's several characters.
I think it'll be only the jealousy plot, but we'll see. And that involves introducing new characters and sort of a complexity to their relationship where they're tested to do with trust. Yeah, and that's the key, is a test to do with trust.
Exactly.
Yeah, so we'll see.
We will see. It's a fun one. It creates interesting conflict. I'm not a fan of the way they did it in the Japanese 2005 version, which is like the closest we're getting so far with this version. But I feel like they're going to go in a different direction. So we're hoping for that. So now we're back at the bus where Tom and Tia are talking about the family business and what's happening. And there's some interesting things that is said here, because I'll start off with this one, because they're talking about their family name, and she says, Tia says something about, being a better person, and Tom responds, a better person? Like, has our family ever cared about that word?
Oof.
And that's him kind of recognizing suddenly that he doesn't have the tools to be the person that like Gorya wants him to be, or like Gorya would want. And he wants to be what Gorya wants. So he's kind of like putting all this together in his mind. He's like starting to question almost everything that he is.
Yeah. I want to talk about something psychological for a second, which is when you are growing up, you go through kind of two very rapid periods of change to do with your personality. The first is when you're a toddler to when you're a school age kid. And it's almost like an alpha test from a computer program perspective. You try different things out and you go through a period of testing where you're like, you'll be screaming at your mom to try and get something, and you try that out. And if she gives into it, you're like, I'm going to use the screaming technique forever. And the same thing happens when you're a teenager, but it's more like you're trying to refine who you are and who you're going to be when you're an adult. This is a very important step in adolescence. So what you end up doing is your body itself changes your risk reward ratio in your mind. So if your reward is high enough, any sort of risk that you're willing to take is worth it. And so what he is doing is we're saying, look, you're about to be locked as an adult. And I should state for you, adolescence lasts until you're 25. So this is not a great like example, but it is saying that you're trying to become who you want to be. And this is the time to try it out and to sort out how to be the good person that you need to be. To be an influential person in the society that is around you.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And there's something interesting that happens here is like, so Tia shows the video of the mom, and you can see that both of them are sort of terrified of their own mother. But there's also like this, Tia has learned to live with it. Like Tia has learned how to thrive in her family, but still, I guess, maintain her goodness, or at least to find it. Like, we don't know exactly what her story is, but she's telling him like, you need to learn how to deal with this, and you not just grow up, but you need to learn who you are. And he says, I know my teenage days are running out. Like, don't tell me what I already know. I get it. And then she says, is it because of Gorya? And he doesn't answer.
Yeah.
He doesn't respond to that. But yeah, like, you're right. This is the time for Tom to really do some introspection. And he knows that, but it's like, he doesn't know what it means to put in the work to learn who you are. So he has to learn that first, even though he knows what he has to do. He doesn't know how to do it. So
and
yeah,
part of it is
good.
because of that, you end up having to go to the school of hard knocks and do it the hard way, which is through trials, through bad stuff that happens. And then you learn how to be the good person that you need to be.
Yeah.
And that the people that you surround yourself with make you better.
Exactly. And we'll probably go into that more maybe the next episode in terms of like what kind of journey Thyme is on from a mythical perspective, because that really does start, I think this episode and the next episode is where we're really going to start seeing Tom do some introspection, figure out who he is. So that's really exciting. So then I skipped over, there's a small scene where Gorya asks her brother about hope. She says, can person hope? And he said, of course.
I love their relationship. It's so small, but it makes me feel like she's not alone, which some of the other versions where she doesn't have a younger brother and she only has a best friend, the best friend is still interested in her from a dating perspective. Whereas having a little brother is kind of there. I have somebody in my corner of my room in this one who's always got my back and will always believe in me. That's so nice.
It is. And there's also an element of Gorya being the older, I think she's older in this version, but there's somebody to take care of at home. That changes the character slightly. In every version, she's always taking care of her family, obviously, because that's what a dutiful daughter does. But in the versions in which she has a younger brother, she almost has she has some sort of plot line at some point where she has to take care of her brother, and she's thinking about that. So that's always interesting. So I'm interested to see where they take that, because there are a few plot points that they could do. And then she's scrolling through social media and she sees the video of Ren and the other boys, MJ and Kevin, on the boat. I thought this was so cute. I was like, they went out there. They actually went out and filmed this. They all jumped off the boat with their clothes on. It was so cute. And again, I love MJ so much.
They're adorable teenagers.
They are, and they're doing these fun things. In all versions, they try to they're drinking a lot and they're hanging out at weird clubs and bars.
They're not drinking a lot, although they have shown MJ and Kevin at clubs, right?
They've they've shown them drinking, but that's not the main thing that they do. They actually just they hanging out and they swimming and hanging out with girls,
Yeah.
I think it's
swimming.
So cute.
There's a lot of swimming so far. And there's been swimming in other versions, like Meteor Garden 2018 had swimming.
And Meteor Garden 2001, he has this massive bath that's a jacuzzi that's inside a glass room, and that's where he does all of his intense thinking. So it's
Boys Over Flowers, she is a swimmer, right?
Yeah, that's true. So there's a lot that happens in the pool.
Yeah, water is associated universally with transformation and change because it is always moving, etc. So symbolically, it's very interesting that they've maintained this across different versions.
It is. I'm excited to see what they do with some of these things. So she wishes upon a falling star, which she doesn't see, but they show it through her window. And so then she wishes to see Ren, and she's looking at the handkerchief, and it's so sweet. And then they show Tom, and he is contemplating, I guess, at his house, and they show us what he's thinking about. And this goes back to the scene, like I was mentioning earlier, because it's showing us from his perspective on the bus. And it's so precious. You can see that he's super duper smitten.
Yeah.
And just this little moment right before she becomes absolutely terrified of him, he really took that in. And I love it. I thought it was such a good moment.
And he this is so good because changing people's lenses of like how we view the characters from an audience perspective. We see how in love he is in this one little snip, because
So
he
small.
himself is like how his mouth is slightly open. He's like, I could kiss her. Like that's how that's the look on his face. And she looks gorgeous and sweet and beautiful in his eyes.
Yes.
It is so well done.
It is. It's perfect. Just the hair tucked behind the ear, like that's one of those romantic tropes where a guy does that to a girl, tucks a hair behind her ear, and that's like a skinship thing. And we'll probably see it in this at some point. We'll probably see that in this version. So I love it.
And he wasn't reminiscing about getting into a fight with her or tackling her to the ground or getting kicked by his sister. No, he was thinking about this small little moment. Oh,
yeah, it was really touching. And then he turns around and he's wearing like this black robe and these like ugly black slippers. It's like, what is this? What is this outfit? But anyways, yes, it was a touching moment. So then we have the paper plane scene, which kind of is, I would say, is sort of I don't know if it's not the climax, but it's like the moment where kind of everything is coming together with what is happening in this particular episode and what's important, and all the symbols are sort of clashing, because you have her holding onto the handkerchief and she's not saying what she wants to say, so she's like not gonna give it to him, right? Yeah. She doesn't want to let go of him. And she's kind of she realizes that she's walking into a story that's much bigger than her and her crush, right?
Yeah.
So this is when she starts to kind of shift her thoughts from I want to be with Ren to I deeply care about this person and I want him to be happy.
I want what's best for him, even if that doesn't mean me.
Exactly.
Ooh, yeah. What I love is that the writers choose the names of each episode of like it's almost like the decision point, or like the key thing you need to take away is the title.
Yeah.
Right. And I love how he's ripping all of the pictures of Mira out of his book and turning them into paper airplanes and throwing them off the window, like very like paralleled to her flying away, right? Yeah. He's like, no longer will I have this. And it comes back later so satisfyingly later. But again, it's like this fake thing that's in my hands, right? Like the picture is not real. The handkerchief is not real. The person is real.
Yes, exactly. And it's really interesting. Again, the handkerchief is never returned to him. She's keeping that part of him to herself.
Yeah.
And it's really important later because he's not gone forever. So
yeah. And this is all witnessed, this entire exchange where they're hanging out together, and their intimacy is witnessed by Tom. And this is key, because this is where his own self-doubt about their relationship, and it's true, like this is him totally recognizing that he is second fiddle to Ren in her mind. Yeah, it is very, very, very important that he witnesses this. But what's cool is that he's dressed like as dark as we've seen him.
Yeah, he is. And they show him like through the window, and the lighting choices. Yeah, it makes him look like he's kind of in this underworld, like looking up at them. It's all, and they've done this before. They did this in the previous episode as well. So
yeah, at the party when he was thinking about maybe going and helping her, and Ren stepped in, and so he still feels like he's a step behind Ren.
Yeah, exactly. But Ren's his best friend, so there's that choice that now he's kind of having to make, which we'll see that come to fruition. So then the next scene, I think Ren says something, and this happened in the 2005 Japanese version too. What leads her going to Mira's house here is Ren sees that she's upset and assumes that it's because Gorya has gotten attached to Mira, right?
Yes.
That's obviously not why she's upset, but that's what he assumes. So he's like, do you want to go see Mira? And she kind of starts putting this together in her head. Like, yeah, I do want to go see Mira because I have something I want to say to her. And then she sees the picture. And this is important from like a plot perspective, because the picture of the F4 and Mira was actually typically in all of other versions, except for the 2005 Hana Yori Dango Japanese version, all other versions, including the manga, have her see the picture after she gets the makeover at the male lead's house.
Mm-hmm.
And she sees that, and she sees in those versions, she sees that, oh, look, they've been together since they were kids. Look how innocent they look, and like, how could they have become these monsters? But in this version and in the 2005 version, she sees it at Mira's house, and it has a completely different meaning than it has in the other ones. This meaning is showing us
good person sees these children still, and sees this innocence, and sees these kids, and has been friends with them for so long. So can they all be that bad?
Yeah. And there's a realization from all of that is like, Mira needs to stay, not just for Ren, but for all of them, because she has obviously done such good things. Like, Mira is the one who pulls Gorya into all of this in this version. Mira is the one who is kind of a magnetic thing for Gorya to be a part of their whole group. If it wasn't for Mira, like, Gorya would not, be pulled into the group. And I guess that's true of almost all the versions, to be honest, because she is kind of that, like, she's that factor.
She's a fairy godmother.
Yeah, she's fairy god. Yeah, she gives her clothes. That does happen in every version, but in this version in particular, Mira is the center of so much conflict right at the beginning.
Yeah.
So she really pulls Gorya in, and seeing Mira leaving for so many reasons is so uncomfortable for her. So I find it interesting that her begging Mira to stay is like it's not just about Ren. It's not just about, like, she girl crushes on her too. Like, she wants her to stay because she is suddenly becoming familiar with her and familiar with this world. And if Mira leaves, then it throws her back into this uncertainty. So
yeah. And also, like, they've really set it up well that she also, like, idolizes her and wants to be more like her from the beginning. So
exactly,
really, there has been more of this, like, it means a lot to have this femme mentor with her.
Exactly.
And it's more powerful. I personally am not a huge fan of the begging scene in any version. I don't know that they've done a version of it that I've liked.
Yeah, they kind of just, it sets up the conflict between Ren and Gorya. It's very specifically for that, and I don't know if anybody has found a way to get around that, because it is so humiliating to Ren that this other girl would essentially, what he sees is beg for him, like, on behalf of him.
I think it's clear that she's begging for herself too, but he doesn't see that way. And it's just like, when you experience secondhand social embarrassment, it's always what I experience with this moment.
Same. Same. Especially with this version, like, there's just so much emotion packed into every scene in this version. Like, it really did. It made me slightly uncomfortable, but also knowing what was going to come afterwards, I felt even more for Ren, because it was like, and then can we talk about the pushing? Because
I totally wanted to talk about the pushing.
So I'll go to actually I have it in the gifts. This was so good. This was so, like,
he pushes her
twice.
And then she's like, no, you stop that. Again, Gorya is yelling. Again, I love it. Like, this is the most expressive female main lead that we've had.
Yes. She's incredibly expressive
and says her mind. And whereas sometimes the versions, you're like, what is the female main lead thinking? I don't know. Like,
I don't know. She's typically more of a self-insert where like you kind of just assume what she's thinking.
And whereas we are very clear that she's like, I did this for myself. However, I do care about you. And he's just like, I'm embarrassed. You embarrassed me. And he takes it out on her. She's like, you're being an idiot. If you care about this, like,
do something. Yeah. Yeah. I like this so much because she gets mad. What about you? Like, what are you doing? Like, she's like, at least I'm doing something. But he says something here, which I've quoted because I love it so much. He says, you haven't been able to change anything. And it's kind of out of the blue. But what he's saying is like, so if you go back to that scene where he took out the lighter and he caused the sprinklers to go off, which saved her and essentially changed the course of the bullying, you know? Yeah. And we talked about that, where that was essentially a moment where Ren decided to do something different. He decided to go against Tom and against what their entire world was, and chose to be a better person. And this comes back to that theme of like change and being better. And now
she awoke him too, right? But in her pain, she awoke him, just like how she awoke Tom in the kiss.
Exactly. But now we're getting this moment where Ren he's already given up. You know, he's been tossing the paper planes over the side of the school, like saying goodbye already, and like mourning her, mourning Mira leaving. And now he sees this and he's mad at himself because he is not actually able to do anything. Like, he is not able to change anything. So when he says this to her, he's essentially saying it to himself. He's projecting. He's saying, you know, he's disappointed that he was able to do something, but now he's not able to do something when it matters the most to him, which is getting Mira to stay, you know, or being in Mira's life, or her being in his life. So she yells back at him, you know, if you like her, deal with it. Like, or she also says, I'm relieved at least I did something.
Yeah.
You know, that's just
at least, you know, you've tried. Like, have you really tried, other than begging her to stay? Or does it always have to be on your way of it? Does it always have to be your way, Ren? That's the question, right? And that brings about his transformation and his decision to go with her.
Exactly.
Or chase her.
Yeah. It's great. When I think she leaves him with that, you know, she walks away from him, and it just, that entire scene, I really like the physical altercation of it, because, you know, it's not done in meanness. It's not done in like, you know, anger. It's done in like, I thought you knew me better. Like, I thought, like, he's doing it. I mean, again, he's projecting, right? So he's upset and he's disappointed with himself, and he wants her to be a bigger change for all of them. He wants her to like be this magical person that just magically changes everyone. And she's like, that's not how it works. Like,
you have to choose to change.
You have to take action. So
and change is such a big theme.
It's such a big theme
in this version specifically. Like, oh, so good.
So good. Okay, so then we have like
the paper plane. I'm gonna die. The paper plane.
I'm pretty sure that I like lost it like at the scene, because I was like, I mean, you know what it is, like, you know, it's the drawing
you
of
know
Mira.
It's and it's saved, and he has come to her. He came to her. That was the solution. And they show it. They show it in the most beautiful way. I love these writers. I wish I could just hug them. You know, like you appreciate symbolism, and you tell the story through this very visceral and accessible way. It's simple. The plane is there. He was hiding. He found a way to go to her, and then he finds a way to go to her. It's just so satisfying when symbols and the story and the plot and the textuality and the intertextuality all lines up.
Yeah, it is. It's really beautiful. That was a great magical moment. So then we know what happens next is that Ren, that was the deciding factor. That was fate for him. And he decides, you know what, I have to go buy a ticket. And then we have the airport scene where
Mira leaves.
And Ren shows up shortly after. He already bought a ticket, and he says Gorya and him say goodbye with this really, really sweet kiss on the forehead.
That's from the Japanese version too. He kisses her on the forehead.
I think it's in every version.
Is it? Oh, okay.
I think so, because I remember explicitly, because in two of the versions, I think it's the Korean one and the Chinese one, when he kissed her on the forehead, the others have to hold back the male lead because she's like wanting to beat him up, and that's like in the manga as well. But this one,
Tom doesn't react at all.
They show his face, but he looks like he's just thinking about other things. Like he's just mad. He's mad that his friend is leaving. That's all he cares about in this moment, and that's exactly what they get to. It's almost like, and this is the same thing in the Japanese version. He just doesn't. He's like, he likes Gorya, but this is not at the top of his priorities right now. He's upset that his best friend is leaving. So
I love that she doesn't know what to do, and her eyes show that.
Yeah, the back and forth of her eyes, like, oh my God,
I don't know what to do in this situation.
It's so cute. I love it. And she goes and she like touches her forehead lightly, like, oh, he just kissed me there, like. And so now she has another part of him that she's taking with her, which is so sweet. Again, she doesn't give him the handkerchief. She still has that. So then Thyme gets mad because he says, I haven't even apologized to you. Like, that's what he's upset about. Like, you're leaving without reconciling anything with me. And then Ren so sweetly, with the sweetest smile, says, you don't need to. Oh, and it's really like made me want to cry.
Like, they hug, and he rests his head on his shoulder, and like, this is like so something sweet. That is universally, appealing around the F4 group, which is that they're incredibly physical with each other, and they show this like homonormative like touching.
Yeah, definitely.
Which is not that it's sexual, it's not that it's romantic, it's that they're friends, and friends express a level of love and touch.
Yeah, there's a skinship element there. There's like this, there's a bond that is being expressed with it, and it's so lovely to watch. I really, really, a lot of feels coming from all the hugging. So
and then they tease him and chase him and act like little kids. They act like little kids, like little boys, like they've grown up to be. And then
that was important because when she saw the picture earlier of them as kids, as children, it's important for her to see like, hey, they still have this bond, even though like Ren is leaving and Mira's gone, they still have this. So that was really important from Gorya's point of view, because she's still getting to know these guys. And that's what happens in the next scene is like, she's contemplating all of this, and she says, I haven't known you for, I've only known you for a short time. She's talking about all of them, but she says a short time can be an important moment. I love that line. It's so good. And it's true. Like, they show like a whole montage of everything that's happened to her with F4 since the first episode. And you realize like, okay, a lot has happened in like a short amount of time. And she has gone from being terrified of these boys to being one of their friends, like one of their good friends.
Like, she's in the car with them. What the hell?
Yeah.
Yeah. Like she's getting a ride with them. They're like, yeah, we're taking you back. And she's like, I guess. And they're like, but we're going to go wave goodbye to Ren's plane first, which is okay. I gotta say, I know it's in like every version, but like, it's weird.
It
like,
is
who
weird.
does this?
I think it's so cute because it's in this one, they make it like that. It's clearly, the male lead's idea. Like, he jumps out like a puppy and he's like, we have to say goodbye to him. And they're all like, you just said goodbye to, like, he's not gonna okay, and they just go along with it.
It just shows like how much of a dumbass he is.
But a cute dumbass.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Like full himbo levels.
Full himbo.
But like it's just because when he feels love, that's like all he feels. When he feels hate, that's like all he feels, you know.
Yeah.
He's just these extremes of emotion, and that's his character.
Exactly. And that's what makes him such a good character, is he is so full of emotion. Oh. So then we get, and this is again, like,
can we talk about Dango?
Yes, we will talk about Dango, but I did want to say, from the last scene to this scene, this is a different, so we're dealing with the same theme of the paper plane, but it's a different part of it. So the show sort of shifts with Ren and Mira leaving. Now we're back at focusing on like, hey, like they're gone. They're no longer a distraction for the two leads. Let's get back to telling their story. And again, we're still following the same plot line as the 2005 version, but we're doing it a little bit smarter, a little bit more explicit. So now we start with Dango being introduced.
Dango, product placements, cat du jour, but also Dango, you know, being like a bun in Japanese, a sweet bun or a bun, right? Something fulfilling. And so the cat is named like Bun, and like it does the cat food product placement, but it's also a nice little Easter egg to say that he named the cat Dango because of Hana Yori Dango.
Yeah, exactly. Right? It's adorable. It is so cute. I didn't catch it on the first watch. I caught it on the second watch and I was like, that's really cute. And
you're eating a lot, Dango.
Yes. And I know it's just like it's an opportunity for product placement, but also it's really sweet that they have this moment happen with Tom and the cat, because it's showing us a little more that like he has a good heart and he's like, you know,
right, in and of himself has a lot of pictures of his cat on Instagram. So he's a big cat
really guy. That's awesome. Oh yay.
Yeah.
That's great. So yeah, so
and
then
he talks about his cat a lot too in interviews. Yes, he does. Aww. Yeah,
I just started to watch more of that kind of stuff, like behind the scenes stuff, so that's adorable. That makes me happy. Then his sister shows up, Tia, and there's a conversation of what to do about Gorya.
I can give you advice. And then he like has to say, can you give me advice? And he says it in this like small, like embarrassed voice. And she makes him repeat it.
Yes.
Just like so an older sibling would. And then they play. Like they feel like siblings.
They do. They're doing a good job with this one. And then
this is the scene I referred to with the jazz, like the slow jazz, like you're romancing her. And then it changes when he says, I'm not a child anymore. Like it's down to business, to like a martial drum music.
Because he's got like a plan. He's got like
a plan.
Yeah.
I'm going to attack.
He's a man with a plan.
Yeah.
So he says he's not a child anymore. And then we just go immediately to the next scene. And I wanted to cover this because I didn't get... Are
we going to try to get these?
I want to try to get these. So in the next scene, they have like, for those who can't see, like there's the mean girls in the background of the cafeteria in the next scene have these little dolls that are clearly the F4, and I think I found them, but I need to like do some more digging to make sure that they're where I'm supposed to be getting them from.
Yeah, we want the official version.
Yeah, I want,
because they are official. They're in the show.
Yeah, exactly. And I couldn't find, I found these pictures on Twitter, but I'm sure that they originated from somewhere else. And I cannot find them, probably because I don't know the Thai. And the person who posted it was posting in English, but they're completely different. Like they have little outfits that are totally different from the ones they have in the show, but it's the official actors like posing with them. So I'm really confused at this point. So
I love the MJ one because the
Me
little
too.
bun.
The little bun.
The
I
little
want that
bun.
one so bad. I want all of them, but if I could just have one, I would probably get the MJ Nani one because he's so adorable.
Yeah.
So yeah.
And Tom's one has his little angry eyebrows.
They really do look like the actor's eyebrows. They did a really good job with that. And like the one that I actually found to buy, like they have their original outfits from like the first episode. So Tom has his little leopard print jacket over his zebra print shirt, which is so funny for a little plush doll.
Mm-hmm.
So, and then MJ has this little like leather jacket. That's so cute. So yeah, I think this is where I'm supposed to buy them from is the ethaicd.com. And from what I can tell, it's official. It's like one of those sites that ships from Thailand and is in English. So, but if you guys know where I'm supposed to get them, please let us know. And then we'll let everyone else know because they're just
adorable.
They're adorable. Yeah. So yeah, that's fun. And so the rest of the scene is Tom getting on the video, the TV in the cafeteria and asking her out through this, which is brilliant because of course he would do this because he doesn't want to actually like face her.
Yeah. He wrote a speech he's not comfortable with delivering because he crunches it all up, and then he threatens her to show up. It's so good. So the Ferris wheel in the background and the clock
tower
and the clock tower. So it is time for us to get on the wheel of fate. It is time for us to just do this. It is the most romantic date proposal that I've ever heard.
Oh yeah.
I'm kidding. No, it's not.
Oh, yeah.
But for me, like with symbolism and with everything, like propose to me this way, please.
Well, and we know, right? We know like what is going to happen, and we know how smitten he is at this point. But Gorya does not know.
She knows. She is denying to her jealous friend.
Yes, she is. Well, and it's also kind of confirming denial with herself, right? Because she still thinks like she knows that he's intrigued by her at least, but she is still concerned about him. He's still just a bully, he's still just an immature rich dude. And no, of course this is not a date. No, of course not. It's certainly not a date, which is wonderful. And also she's denying it in front of the rest of the students because she considers this to be him putting another like almost another red card in a way. It's like another way to paint a target on her back for the other students to tease her. So she's not happy about that either. So
oh my gosh.
Yeah.
I have so much to say.
MC has a lot to say about the Ferris wheel. So I'll breeze through this one. There is the show in the background and
the celebs again.
Yes. With the interview with Tom and some of the other F4, and it kind of comes out of the blue, but the more it like the longer we kind of hear this interview go on in the background, the more it's being clear that he's talking to her. Yeah. And I think you said that like something similar, like
yes, so this is just I'll gush for a very quick moment about how they use social media and technology. I've pointed it out throughout this episode, checking Instagram, the broken phone so she can't call him or communicate, right? So that's a big symbol of communication focus, right? So focus of who you're willing to communicate and who you're not willing to communicate, and that communication between the two of them is broken at this moment with her broken phone. And then Tom, through the celebs show, is expressing who he was before he met her. He is not people would have to put up with me. I'm difficult. They always come to me. And she realizes that he is not that person, even as she is thinking through who he is in the checklist of her mind as
Yeah.
he's talking about who he was, because this was filmed probably way before that.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So, and then he confirms it when she runs off to go and see him. To
Mm-hmm.
us as the audience, she doesn't hear that because she's already gone, because she realizes he has changed, and he confirms that he would change for the right person.
Yeah. He says, but maybe if the girl is important, then she could change me forever. That's what he says.
Yes.
So it's such a great moment. And we're gonna go back real quick because
all right, I need to focus on this darn Ferris wheel. Okay, so I was struck by this moment when she's been sort of running away from him in this shopping scene with her best friend, and she's reminded of him. Literally, they go to a restaurant and he's there. They're shopping for a blouse and he's there on this celeb show. It's like people were just like repeating it or something, or it was one of those networks that they were showing this clip over and over and over again. But for some reason, he's always there where she is on this show.
Yeah. And just to give because they cut back and forth between that, like that he's always around, but then they show where he actually is, and they never show his face until the very, very, very end. And that's like really deliberate, because who he is and who he wants to be are different. So showing him on this interview type of thing, and then showing him waiting for her with his back face to the camera, I just really like that, because it's giving us hope for, like, you know, who's gonna become, that's the anticipation of it, right? So
and constantly showing specifically non-digital clocks, like round, standard clocks,
symbology.
Yeah. Showing the clocks, showing him looking at the clock tower and the wheel in the background.
Right.
I'm reminded of two things, and I'm going to just give a quick caveat that I am a very white person that lives in North America who's studied this as a point of interest and not anything professional, and nor am I of the culture. So if I get anything wrong, I do apologize in advance, and feel free to correct me. But it is something I'm interested in because I like studying religions and mythologies and beliefs of other cultures. So I'll go into it specifically for North American audiences. But to me, the wheel is showing two things, and especially how Gorya focuses on it as a reminder. So there's kind of this concept that when she sees the rain and she sees the wheel, she is reminded that he is suffering in the rain for her. And that automatically reminds me of the concept, the Buddhist and Hindu concept of samsara, which represents the cycle of life that everyone goes through. Like the Bengali meaning of samsara, sangsar means family life, and it literally means you're born, you get married, you have babies, and you die, right? Like it means that, like, how do you live? And samsara is always associated with the suffering of living. So in a lot of this sort of just cultural normity inside of Eastern or Asian religions, there's a concept that if you can reduce the suffering of others, it's a better thing. And it is the right thing to do, is to stop the suffering of another person if you can. And in many ways, by coming together, they are riding the cycle of life together. They are going throughout their cycle, their samsara together. Yeah. And that they've already been bound together. And this kind of leads into the symbolism of hopefully what will happen next episode, where they are trapped together. It means that they're bound on the cycle of life. Yeah. There's another sort of symbolism that's happening at the same time that could also be present, which is another concept within Buddhism called dharma. which is sort of the right way of living. And as you get further towards, say, Japan and further away from India, you get more of a feeling that you can change and transform your samsara in the life that you're living, but also you can kind of work to improve things as you're living, and you don't have to necessarily wait for the next life from a karmic rebirth perspective. And Dharma really applies to the concept of having a righteous king, or in our modern day, it would be a righteous leader. And we're seeing this throughout this entire episode, and actually the show, that however Tom changes the people around him and the school. And it's because, when you head with a leader who is unrighteous, you can only expect the subordinates to follow suit.
Right.
And that's a large concept. And he's almost like this baby king. In fact, in episode 1, Thyme's mom tells him, like, if you can't rule a school, how do you expect to run anything else? Like, he is the ruler of the school, and he's an unrighteous king, which causes problems for everybody around him. And he has to learn how to be a righteous person. And that ties to Gorya calling him out on being selfish and not caring about everybody else and what is right.
Right.
It's so cool.
Yeah. And I'll kind of go off of that a little bit more, because I really like the wheels stuff. It's like so interesting to me. And I love the visual of it, because to me, when Gorya sees the wheel, it's not moving. So it's like, although time is still moving, like things have stood still for her and for Tom. So it's
a decision point.
It's a decision point. Yeah.
Will things move forwards or backwards?
Right. And that's also symbolic of, like, deciding to be heroic, right? Hero's journey type of stuff. It's like deciding to be a part of this cycle, or deciding to kick it backwards, to go on your own path. And like all these things are cyclical, but like, a decision point is the thing that gets that wheel turning. So yeah, there's a lot of different ways you can look at it. I just really like that they use it so much visually, because it is such an important moment. And again, we're not in the paper plane era anymore, like of the episode, but this is Gorya's paper plane, right?
Yeah.
Like it means something in the same way that the paper plane meant for Ren to tell him where he needed to go and what he needed to do. So this is Gorya's paper plane moment for her, and it's the wheel. So very cool. I like all of the cool Dharma stuff. So then this is the last couple shots from the show, and it just makes me really happy.
Oh, he's so soaked.
And this is and again, he had his back turned in all of the shots that they were showing, and now he turns around and he is just completely like, he just looks like such a baby here, and I love that so much. So there's one thing I wanted to talk about. I think you had a couple more notes. This is from the 2005 version of Hana Yori Dango, the Japanese version, and this is the moment where our female lead realizes that she has to go to the meeting spot, right? That she realizes that he's probably waiting for her. And the way that they do it is they her friend gets this toy from one of those claw machines. And she's like, what is this? And she's like, oh, I've heard of this character. It's Tiger Mask. Tiger Mask is a lonely man who's not allowed to show his true and gentle face. And it's just literally just like a man with a mask on, looks like a tiger. And I was like watching this the other day, and it was like, it blew my mind, because this episode is about like change. It's about having to work hard to do introspection and to become a different person. Like you said, working through the trials that are presented to you in order to grow and change. A lot of emphasis on change and growing up. And the previous version that they're actually working off of in terms of plot was going off of this idea that the male lead is just a gentle heart and a gentle soul underneath this kind of animalistic, angry exterior.
Mm-hmm.
So those are two very different things from a thematic perspective. Hiding your true face is a bit different from change, because change requires a lot more work, right? So, and a lot more suffering, like, honestly, like hiding your true face. And this is that moment where she also thinks about what she saw at the airport, and that she saw the male lead crying, or not. I think he was crying in that version, but at least he was upset. Like, he was upset that his best friend was leaving, and she sees all of this, and she sees what she now knows is his so-called true face, right?
Yeah, the gentle version of him.
Yeah, he has a heart, he cares about his friends, and he potentially cares about her. But that's not the realization that we get in this version. In this version, we get her seeing that he is trying to change, that and that she is the main element to encourage that change. So I don't know where that's going for the future of the episodes, but like, I just find it really interesting that these were so essential to the episode. Like, I'm not a child anymore, and
there's such a focus on choice, and like, you are the master of who you become, and you can change, you can choose a different path, you can choose to walk in a different direction. And I even feel like that is just a more modern interpretation of being able to be a different person.
Yeah, because saying that, you're just, oh, they're just misunderstood, they're really gentle on the inside, that's
doesn't
almost
really
not
quite cut it anymore.
Exactly. It doesn't. It's not enough for people, because, I mean, the more that, especially with different iterations of the story, right? Because every time there's a new iteration of it, it brings new meaning, and it brings new, it makes us value different things from the story that we didn't value before. And what they're doing now is they're saying, like, it's harder. Like, it's harder than that to love somebody, to be with somebody. It's very difficult. And in previous versions, they might have shown that in physical conflict. And in later versions, they're showing that in these really important moments where they have to make a choice, and they have to make a hard choice that has a variety of implications, right? So I don't know.
Yeah, absolutely. And also just focusing on, like, this is sort of stripping away the fairy tale aspects in a way too. It's saying, like, it's not that he was under a spell. This is an active decision somebody has to make to care about others. You have to actively care about others, surprisingly. Yeah. And it's odd that this is, the delay in it coming out, etc. We in society need to actively care about those around us, and it takes intention.
Yeah, I think that goes along with a lot of social messaging that we see, like, in the modern day. Like, you have to be intentional, and you have to be actively working towards change, and actively working, to be better. Like, all of that is in this, and all of that is in our society now. So it makes sense.
And it's good to have these messages be that you can't just, magic wand away a terrible personality.
Yeah.
Like, you have to actually actively choose to be better. You have to actively choose to think about other people and to care about other people. And that's what it takes. Living the truth.
Yeah, exactly. Not just magically changing. Yeah. I love it, because essentially, I mean, these all mean the same things, but especially from a storytelling perspective, but the choices are deliberate, and it's very, it's very purposeful, and it's very meaningful. So it's nice. I like where they're
Absolutely.
going with it. It's really cool.
Yeah, and we've really enjoyed every single episode so far. And
Yeah.
it's given us a lot of cool stuff to discuss and talk about and gush over from a storytelling perspective. It,
Mhm.
it's so
Clearly.
good. Yeah.
Clearly, we have plenty to talk about, and we're going to continue to do so. I think the next episode looks really interesting because it looks like it deviates slightly from the 2005 version, which, you know, that's cool. I want to see some more deviation from it going forward. So
Yeah,
that's exciting.
this was further away from the Japanese version. I say like episode 2 had the most,
Yeah,
parallels.
similarities.
And
Yeah.
it was purposeful because they're like, we're gonna address the bad bullying girls in the same colors. We're gonna, like they did it with intention, and they even, pointed to that intention. Whereas
Mhm.
this one, they used some of the shortcuts, but it moved further away with the choice of the bus and the choice of how the conversation with the sister went, and the paper plane symbolism. Like they're
Yeah.
doing their own unique thing. And the Japanese version sometimes gets a little wacky
Yeah.
as it goes. And so I'm excited to see where this takes its own path in
Absolutely.
that.
Yeah, same. Same. Awesome. All right, guys, thank you so much for listening. You can find me at if you want to follow us on Twitter, you can find me at wit_folly. That's where I post most of my stuff about F4 Thailand. And then you can also follow me on my personal Twitter account at black_TYM, where I talk about all sorts of other things. And then Marie Claire, where can they find you?
So if you're interested in Star Wars, I'm currently covering Book of Boba Fett, which is out on Disney Plus, at WT4 Show on Twitter, or What the Force on YouTube. If you're interested in other media, I'm not covering anything right now for What the Fiction, but you can check me out there. Just WT Force Media on Twitter, or What the Fiction on YouTube, or What the Fiction on any podcast. If you're looking to listen to this again for some reason on the podcast, I also post just the audio and you can check that out on Spotify or iTunes on What the Fiction for this show. If you want to follow my personal Twitter, it is Marie C. Gould.
Yeah.
I tweet about tons of weird stuff.
Yeah. And that's just to reiterate, the episodes here on YouTube are posted with the visual GIFs and some other stuff that we grab to illustrate things as we talk about them. So if you want to watch, it's at the channel Wit and Folly. And then if you're watching on YouTube, but you'd rather listen, go check out What the Fiction on any podcatcher. So many ways to listen and or watch. And again, thank you so much, guys, for listening to this. Please let us know about the episode in the comments. Anything you would like to add to the conversation, we're definitely looking forward to it. So,
and we're absolutely loving the ongoing conversation on Twitter and on YouTube after every episode that we post. It's been really, really enjoyable. So thank you for that.
Yeah, definitely. All right, guys. Thanks and cheers.